Okay, I would like to officially call to order the Tuesday, September 7th, 2021 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. And pursuant to the extension of Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this public meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but the public can access this meeting while in progress by Zoom Video Communications, Inc. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by telephone, cell phone, or personal computer using Zoom. And as is our tradition, we will start this evening with a roll call. I am Brian Barabee.
I'm Bill Payne.
Jillian.
Yep. Jillian Glasanos. Emily Winter.
And Rebecca Longball.
All right. First up this evening, the Bolton Conservation will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider of a notice of intent for 0 Main Street, map 5.E, parcel 100, proposed temporary wetland crossing. Rebecca, is anyone here with an update on this evening?
Chris from Hannigan Engineering has called in, but this portion of the meeting was solely for the commission to review a draft order of conditions, which I sent over the weekend, and just have that in front of them and hopefully issue a decision this evening. I have received no additional information, no changes, no revisions were requested of the commission as far as the plans and the proposal. Therefore, I hand it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and if commission members remember, or if there's any new members of the public here this evening, this was discussed at last meeting. We basically came to some conclusions on some boilerplate information we wanted to see inserted into the order of conditions, which, looking through it, Rebecca, it looks like you've done. That said, I don't have any other questions regarding this or issues with the orders as they were drawn up and drafted for this evening's meeting. Any other commission members have questions or issues with the orders as they stand?
I did not attend the last meeting, Brian.
Okay.
So I am not at all familiar with this or even where this is located. I can either get filled in or waive my vote. I don't have enough information to vote tonight. I don't know what makes more sense, just to, since this has already been discussed and additional information has been requested, would it make more sense for me to not vote or to reopen, go back through all the details?
So we can't reopen a public hearing, but you can certainly abstain. And then I can, because this is obviously going to be a project that until the COC is issued, the commission will be involved in. So I can certainly catch you up on that after.
Okay.
That makes sense. Okay. Any of the commission members who were here last week have any questions or issues with the orders as they've been drafted?
No.
All right.
No.
Hearing nothing. In that case, I'm going to make a motion that we close the public hearing for 0 Main Street, map 5.E, parcel 100. Do I hear a second for closing?
Mr. Chair, you voted to close at the last public meeting.
I am so sorry.
That's okay.
Now I want to reopen. No. All right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for 0 Main Street, map 5.E, parcel 100, as drafted and distributed at this evening's meeting. Do I hear a second for that?
I second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
Emily.
Will abstain.
Okay. And Rebecca, I am an aye as well.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much from the commission.
Thank you. Chris, I will notify you when we've received all the signatures and it will be in the mail. And you will also receive an electronic copy as well.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Alrighty.
Sorry, how are we on time? We have a few minutes before we can open the second hearing. Rebecca, are there any updates good to go through now?
Muted. If you would like, I can go over the MVP, the new portion of the MVP that, okay.
I think that would be excellent. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Great. So we have received the town of Bolton working with the town of Clinton, neighboring us, has submitted a grant application for the MVP Action Grant. So we finished one, which you will see on the agenda, is advertised just for the purposes of creating some visibility and awareness to the project that we recently completed. This next project is the Nashua River Communities Resilient Lands Management Project. So what we'll be doing with these funds, as we were awarded the grants, we were awarded the grant in just over $300,000. So it's a 2-year project. And what we will be doing is defining land management practices that both strengthen and enhance ecosystem services of lands within participating municipalities of Clinton and Bolton, but also the region itself, that are not covered with impervious surfaces and not currently engaged in agricultural production. So this includes water management, carbon sequestration, habitat support, temperature modulation. And those are just some examples of the ecosystem services that the improved management practices can support. At the same time, what we will be doing is looking at, even though it says we're not looking at properties that are currently engaged in agricultural production, because that was part of our last project, we will still be using some of the practices on agricultural properties, or at least encouraging them in those locations as well. Additionally, what we're looking to do is really create a strong community engagement focus, more so than we did in the last grant, reaching out to the local school systems as well. Then what we will do is we will be working with more of the community than public officials to create these. And also included in the grant is updates to our bylaws specific to climate mitigation and climate resiliency practices. So we'll have some example information that comes directly out of this, but also a review of our existing bylaws to then tag or pull in those resiliency aspects as well. So that is our new project that we're hoping to tie in some of the aspects that we learned from our last project as well.
Excellent. Thank you for your work on that one, getting that one going. We have a few minutes before we can open the next hearing. Have people had a chance to review the minutes from our last meeting? What, the August 17th meeting? All right. Would any commission members have any questions, edits, thoughts on the minutes from our August 17th meeting, or would anybody like a little bit more time to look through them? Are people comfortable with them as they stand?
I'm all set, Brian.
Okay. All right. Not hearing anything. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes for our August 17th, 2021 meeting as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting. Do I hear a second for that?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
Emily,
I'm abstaining.
and Rebecca, I'll be an aye for that one as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right. Sorry to keep everyone waiting. We have a few more minutes before we can open the next hearing. Rebecca, any maintenance or management updates for the conservation properties? And I'm not sure if that's a longer discussion, but
Not this evening. The update I have is that I will be going on a site visit with Henderson Stryker, whom we've used on our Bowers and Butternut properties, to review the Wilder conservation area tomorrow. And that's just to get an idea of what the cost may be to address the wall of invasive species that exist on the property, and then maintenance going forward. Then from there, also on the Taggart property, I will be installing some of the informational signage that has interactive QR codes along the existing cart path, which the commission approved at prior meetings. And that should be open within the next couple weeks, if not week. I mean, it's open now, but there's limited signage there, so.
had a chance to walk it over the long weekend just to do a quick hike too. It's nice.
Yes.
Be great if we ever do connect it down to Furbush. It would be
Yes.
fantastic. But yeah, no, it was a nice little walkthrough.
Yes, I would agree. And it seems to be if you've ever been to the property and you enter off of Forbush Mill Road, there's a small gravel basin area to your left as you enter into the property, or to the northern side. And there it seems there's a small microburst area, which is interesting, but there's quite a few trees that come down just about every storm.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. And we have a similar area on Rattlesnake, and I think on the Welsh Pond Conservation Area as well. So they exist throughout the town. I'm sure there's many more.
Just set up a camera during a storm. Okay. 7:15. Almost there. All right, I'm going to take the risk and start to open it. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for determination of applicability for 12 Deer Path, a proposed pool, landscaping, and deck. There's the map. All right, we had a chance to go out there on a site visit. I know the applicants have submitted some additional information recently about some changes that were discussed possibly in the field. Do any members of the commission have questions regarding this project, regarding the site visit, or any of the revisions that came through earlier?
Brian, I just was going back through the notes from the last meeting, and I am familiar with this site in general. I don't exactly know what the revisions were made on this updated plan, but I was just reading that the applicant was exceeding the total allowed alterations, which includes the existing home, correct?
Yes, you're talking about the total numbers
Yeah,
or alterations within the riverfront area meeting 5,000 feet or the 10%.
right. And I'm looking at this updated plan and it seems to only include the proposed work.
Yes, so these calculations on the left-hand side of your screen show the total numbers, you're correct, regarding the proposed work not existing, including the deck and the existing home and the shed. And there's the patio area's out.
So, Rebecca or Brian, what was updated on this plan? Because I have reviewed this updated plan. But it doesn't look like anything was pulled out of the riverfront area. So has any update been made to that to reduce that 11,000 maximum square foot alteration?
I will leave that to the applicant unless Chair wants to comment on that.
No, I'd be grateful if the applicant could answer that question.
Sure. Scott Hayes here, Foresight Engineering. Hi. So, I mean, this project was filed under a request for determination of applicability on the basis that it was a conversion of existing lawn area to other accessory residential uses. The house was built, 15, 20 years ago. And the limits of yard and landscaping and the house itself and the alterations that occurred at that time is not really relevant to the application. What we have is an existing house with an existing backyard. We're not increasing the extensive site disturbance beyond the existing yard area. And under CMR 1058-6, there's provision for alteration or conversion of lawn area to other accessory uses as a minor project, not requiring, not being required to meet the performance standards, so long as it's not being expanded. So what we've done here is limit the pool patio, fencing, et cetera, to the limits of the existing yard area. And the revised plan here isn't substantially different than what we presented a few 3-4 weeks ago. Really the only difference to it, I don't know if you can zoom in at all, Rebecca, to the actual pool area. So the only real difference to this plan is we added a pool pad area at the rear of the pool along the fence line for the pool equipment. And we modified the security fence to follow the contour at the top of the slope at the rear corner where the slope drops off. And so that pool, that fence corner makes an angle and follows the top of the slope and doesn't extend down the hill. Other than that, this is the plan that we had presented at the last meeting. And so we had the site walk, we had the pool and the patios and the fence areas staked out and inspected, and that's where we are.
Scott, just one question. I thought that the proposed pool equipment at the last meeting, there was a mention of one potentially putting under the deck. I understand you had to double check about that, or the property owner did. But the other side of that conversation that had occurred was, well, we'll make sure it's outside of
Yeah,
the jurisdictional area, and it's actually
so
closer to than the deck would have been, I think, or pretty much even with it.
So, and maybe Jonathan Keep, the landscape designer, can speak to this, but they had desired to put it under the deck, but there was concern by the pool company about adequate ventilation for that. They didn't want it in an enclosure. So they wanted it in the vicinity of the pool and at a similar elevation with the pool. So that's where that's the location that was selected by the site designer as a good location to meet the criteria of the pool equipment manufacturer for servicing the pool. Could it be moved further away? I don't know logistically if it's possible. That was the desired location that was provided and that we've added to the plan.
What is pool equipment?
It's just a pad that has pumps that circulate the pool water through filters back into the pool.
So was that region, the last time you showed this map, wasn't that region still naturalized at that point? in that
Yeah,
area?
well, so we picked up when we surveyed, we picked up the edge of the lawn and the actual landscaping. There's mulch and landscape plantings extend another 10 feet beyond the lawn edge, and that's really where the erosion control line and security fence are proposed to follow along that area across the back. So it really lands in an existing kind of mulch bed, an area that's been historically maintained as landscape before you get into the real wild, undisturbed natural area.
Brian, can I speak?
Please go ahead, Mr. Keep.
Yeah, so I'm Jonathan Keep. I'm here in my professional capacity as a landscape designer. And I was representing the Yezuways. I was on site for the site walk. And then subsequently, we had a meeting with the pool company. And the issue really we really wanted to put it under the deck. But the big issue is that you can't have the pump systems lower than the pool level. And that area is lower. And so it kind of left us with different options. And if we'd put it kind of above the Bluestone Terrace, that would again have us higher than the pool area. And we didn't want to get it closer to the conservation area, the wetlands. So this seemed to be kind of the best spot. And again, it is within a mulch bed with irrigation and shrubs and things like that on the edge of the woods.
And I'm just trying to look at some of the elevations because there's no way it could go to the, well, I want to say the left of my screen as I'm looking to. On the other side of the Bluestone Terrace, looks like it's about a 200-foot elevation as opposed to a 197. Is there any way we could get it down outside on the other side of that Bluestone Terrace?
The pool company, is not recommending that. If we did that, we would have to probably excavate and create kind of an alcove, an alcove within the grade to get the right kind of equilibrium in terms of the pumps.
Brian?
I think Brian, it could be sheeted up further along to the left, as you say, toward the terrace. But the elevation does start to climb at that back corner. As you can see where the existing stone retaining wall is at the back of the existing patio, kind of cutting into the grade up there. So
Yeah.
It's going to create more site disturbance by trying to push it out of the riverfront in this case than to work with the the elevation of the surrounding patio or even immediately behind the terrace is probably close enough that we wouldn't need to cut the grade, but it's just problematic where the 200-foot buffer line falls in this case for kind of pushing things beyond that for that reason.
We also need to stay, I'm not sure about the code in Bolton, but it's a 3-by-8 foot pad. I don't know how close we can get that to the property line.
Oh, that's a good point.
Brian, what is
Go ahead.
the commission's concern with the location of the equipment pad? Is it like discharging pool water toward the wetland or toward the riverfront area?
I mean, somewhat multiple. I mean, I can speak for me. I mean, I think we even discussed on site, moving that back fence even in towards the pool area, and allowing that kind of mulched over area now just to naturalize as part of the mitigation process, and bringing that fence in, closer. And now, you have activity. You're going to have to be working back there. I mean, that's, if that's where your pump is, that's where you're going to need to get access to. You're going to be going back there. Things get stored there. I can't remember if it was a saltwater tank, but you get chemicals going in and out there at like one of the closest places to the wetlands. And of course, everything's in the riverfront area. I think that was one of the bigger concerns, was just trying to mitigate and try to pull stuff forward, or at least try to hold the line on where stuff should naturalize before you really get into the heart of the buffer zone there and the auras.
We did talk to Snyder Pools, and the pump they're using does not have a backflow feature. It's self-contained, and all this is a vinyl pool, and they do not. Snyder Pools does not recommend lowering the level in the winter. So basically, it's going to be filled up, covered and uncovered. There will not be water from the pool flowing into the wetlands. It's a contained system. I think one option in terms of that mulched irrigated area, I think we could consider is planting that, revegetating that with native shrubs, grasses, perennials, that are native. Right now, it's kind of a mix of azaleas and, non-native, kind of just general landscaping that was done, years ago. But we could definitely, I think, commit to replanting that area with 100% natives.
I mean, I can see that for parts of it, but it's going to have to be an active area. You're going to need to be able to get at that pump house to maintain it. If there's any problems with it, just regular routine maintenance, you're going to be needing to go back and forth and be able to walk out to it, be able to walk around it, 360 degrees. So kind of smack dab in the middle of that area, you're making a lot of that space that we thought was going to be naturalized, actual working space. And again, I'm not sure what the solution to that is, because I hear the problems you're running into with where you move that pump house and everything, but I don't know.
I mean,
I'm not sure what a good solution would be, but pulling stuff away from the resource area would be ideal, not putting more stuff in towards it.
Mr. Chairman, one point that the applicant's representatives had brought up was that if it is moved outside of the riverfront area, which is obviously less, the pool installer does not suggest that, but it sounds like they are able to trench and create an area that it is then installed at the same level, or elevation rather. So the commission has the ability to request that of the applicant, well knowing that that would cause potentially a trench that needs to be disturbed. So you're potentially having more ground disturbance versus for a pool pad. However, if the commission's looking to allow for this extent of work to be allowed within the riverfront area, I think it's very reasonable under the current regulations to say, if all the equipment is moved outside of the resource area and you have a trench that's, I'm not sure how deep or how wide the trench needs to be, that area is to then be naturalized. Pull in the fence so that it remains naturalized in that area as well, which seems to be one of the main concerns that the commission keeps bringing up, aside from the total alterations to this resource area. But that, I think, is a reasonable middle ground while still meeting the performance standards of the riverfront area, should the commission wish to make a determination that this is meeting that minor work requirement under the Wetlands Protection Act regs.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Please.
I mean, look, I don't think it's impossible to move the pool equipment beyond the 200 foot. I just think we're probably doing more detriment to the site by creating more necessary site activity to then trench the piping of the pool. And, you're increasing the distance from the equipment to the pool. We have to trench through the riverfront. I mean, could it conceivably be located along the back edge of the terrace? It's probably feasible to do that. But I didn't realize it would be such a sticking point on the project. I think if it really is, we can find an alternate location and say that the pump equipment won't be placed in the riverfront. I just feel like we're sort of just spiting the site for the sake of not citing it in the riverfront. We're creating more actual site work related to the project. So I think it's a trade-off kind of thing.
I can see that. I just think, like I said, over time, if you trench it, you bring it over, it naturalizes. If you stick an 8 foot by 3 foot, device or functioning mechanical device in the back there that you need to get at and maintain, I just think that's getting closer to the riverfront area, and it's in areas that we would have liked to have seen naturalize. That pulling it out, trenching, and allowing it to naturalize, a year from now, we're in much better shape than if we had stuck it in the back there. And I'll let other committee members weigh in too, but it just seems to me I'd like to see a possible plan with that pulled out, if it can be done and pulled out, and maybe have that back fence even pulled in a little bit. Again, just to mitigate the area and try to provide a little bit of protection before we get into where the topography really drops off down to the whole riverfront area. Again, that's just my thinking. Other commission members have questions regarding this?
Is there a reason that, I mean, if to get back to Brian's point, could it not be brought to the other side of the pool and landscaped around to just kind of visually? Brian, are you looking to pull the fence closer in, moving that equipment and bring the fence closer into the home, or closer towards the home?
I could see that. I was fine with the fence where it was when they were going to just basically allow that area to just naturalize. So you'd have the ring around the pool, and then you'd have a little bit of give before the fence, which I can see. And I was fine, but I'd like to get, what threw me more was showing that this pad was now going to go back there and then right up against the fence. I kind of like to keep nothing out of there, that I can understand the ring around the pool basically, and to have that kind of be the extent of it, other than the fence.
Well, I think, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, is the pad at elevation 197, or is there the proposed grading not shown? Because I'm just curious. I mean, if it's at elevation around 197, could it just be brought to the bottom right corner of the pool, landscaped around, so that it's not, you're not looking at the pool pump when you look out the back window? Is that an option?
Well, I don't.
I think one thing that is also being kept in mind here is that now we're moving closer into the resource area if you're putting bottom right.
Yeah.
But to your point, Emily, I think moving it to the opposite side, that's maybe closer to the outer edge of the 200 foot, because I think what the chair, and I don't want to speak for him, and I think to your point as well, Emily, regarding the extent of alterations within the riverfront area, is ultimately reducing alterations within the riverfront area. And then with that, moving it as far out as you can if you can't completely reduce them. So I think that's what the orientation is regarding that equipment pad that Brian's now concerned with, because previously it was to be in a naturalized area. Where you're suggesting to move it, though, is in an area that's more landscaped than where it is proposed now. But again, just want to be mindful of where it is within the riverfront area.
That area, that 10-foot area is not heavily vegetated. I mean, it's mulched and irrigated, and there's non-native like landscape shrubs and things of that nature. But I didn't think it would be such a sticking point, but I think we can relocate that pad outside the 200-foot riverfront. I mean, it's a bit more work. I wouldn't push it toward the rear corner, but toward the back edge of the terrace, it could be tucked in outside the riverfront, and then just have the conduits piped in. Just not ideal from a construction logistics point of view, but I think it's possible to do it. So if that's a major sticking point here, I mean, we can just relocate it outside the riverfront.
Well, first, do other commission members have any questions? And then, if not, I should ask Rebecca, is anybody here from the public to comment on this tonight or have questions?
Again, I apologize, we didn't go over it in the beginning of the meeting, but you can use the raised hand function, or you can use the chat function. If you have a camera, you can physically wave. It may just take me a moment to see you. But I am.
Rebecca, Richard.
Oh, I'm seeing Richard Davis, Brian.
Okay,
And then
if
that's it.
he has a question, please, the chair recognizes Richard Davis.
Thank you, Brian. I'm curious if you could find out the manufacturer and model number of the filter system for the pool, and whether this is getting to the point of most pool filters are discharged in order to clean the filter. And where is that discharge water going? That's question number one. And question number two is, when we receive a lot of rain, oftentimes people just run the discharge on the filter to get additional water out of the pool. Like typically you've got 6 inches of freeboard, but after heavy rain, the pool could be completely filled. Once again, where's that water going? And we talked about saltwater pools the last time. I'm not sure the point was made clear enough that yes, it's salt water, but it's Cl2, it's chlorine gas. That's how the pool gets, cleaned, clears the bacteria. Well, that's not going to be a good thing to be going into, in a backwash system down the hill. Okay, those are my questions.
All right. I will, before I pass it on to the applicant, I will say, usually we'll actually condition that any pumping or backwashing from the pool be done upland or not into the resource area, and we'll kind of put that on the ongoing conditions with anything we certify. Usually is how we'll deal with that. As far as the manufacturer, the model number for the pool pump or the pool system, can anyone for the applicant answer that one? Know that one offhand?
Jonathan, you?
I don't have the number with me, but I believe we sent you information about that filter from the pool company. It is a model that does not backwash as part of its filtration process. Did you receive that, Rebecca?
Yes, I don't have it offhand right now, but I just want to highlight one thing. And I appreciate that the applicant has sent us that information. I will have to look through my documents to find it, though. I think the more relevant aspect of Richard's comment, in fact, though, is pools do backwash, whether it be an emergency circumstance or just how the filtration system functions. So what the commission has the ability to comment on and provide conditions related to are specific to, as Brian stated, what happens, where does it go, and also where this equipment is installed on site, so that it's further away or so that it's in a location that if it were to, or if in the future something's upgraded and changed, it won't directly impact the resource area. So any project that's before the commission, they're looking at it as reducing and removing and limiting any adverse impacts to the resource area. So regardless of the filtration number or what's being installed, that's what they have to determine, on top of, is specific work allowed in an area for those same reasons.
So it sounds like relocating the filtration equipment outside of the resource area would solve a lot of problems that we're discussing right now. Yes?
I think so. I'd feel better about the project. I know, just speaking for myself.
Could the equipment go behind the 5-foot tall bluestone wall at the terrace patio?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss it with Jonathan, who's the landscape designer. I think it could go behind the terrace outside the riverfront, on the far end to the left of the screen, toward the back corner. I think we could get it in there. Might
I agree, Scott.
And that area's going to need to be regraded, or that retaining wall that exists there now need to be kind of rebuilt to maintain the grade back there. But I think we could tuck it off that end of the terrace and achieve the grade outside the riverfront. So we would sort of eliminate that jurisdictional issue of the pool equipment backwashing in the riverfront, et cetera. So.
All right. If you're amenable to that, is it possible that we can continue to our next meeting?
Well,
I guess what I would like to see is a plan actually drawn up that shows where it will be and make sure it will actually work.
Rather not continue it if we can relocate it outside, as long as it doesn't go in the resource area. That's not adequate to the commission.
So the problem is the commission, if the commission weren't to continue, they'd be required to close this evening. And once the public hearing is closed, the commission cannot accept any new information.
But is this a public hearing? It's a public meeting, yes?
No, this is a public hearing. Request for determination of applicability, notices of intent, abbreviated notice of resource areas, along with, trying to think what else are all public hearings.
When's the next meeting of the commission?
The 21st.
And really,
Mr. Chairman, can you vote contingent on the pump being moved outside the 200-foot buffer?
We've been avoiding those type of contingency votes because we really like to get the plans in hand first. We've done some of those, but it's difficult. If the final plans end up not looking like what we were envisioning or we were thinking, like Rebecca said, the public meeting's closed. We can't enter the new plans in. We can't discuss them. We can't ask additional questions. If you say you're going to move it here, but you have to, cut a huge trench, maybe we have questions about the trenching. It's the only reason why we keep them open. We can really run ourselves into trouble if we do those contingency closings.
Mr. Chair, the other opportunity you may have, but again, I would strongly encourage to follow exactly what you just described. However, if you had the exact location, the exact parameters of the pool equipment or anything that's being revised on these plans and it wasn't seen as major, the commission may have the ability to add it in as a very specific condition as part of the determination. However, for the reasons you just stated, what you've stated is a much better approach for alterations within the riverfront area that are being proposed. But I did just want to state that for the commission.
I mean, in seeking a negative determination here, I mean, obviously this would be a negative with conditions if the commission were inclined to issue it that way. So, I mean, conditions being the installation of the erosion controls and, another condition could certainly be relocation of the pool equipment outside the riverfront. But I understand what the chairman is saying. It's certainly cleaner that way. We're just up against time at this point for trying to get some construction done before we get too far along into the autumn here. So we're trying to not protract this process unnecessarily. But so if you're sympathetic to that, we would appreciate it. If not, we'll come back with a revised plan.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a way I can make it work faster, and I am just not seeing it. I honestly, I think we're probably going to need to see the revised plan. I'm trying to think if we have a meeting coming up or any other dates coming in, but we really don't.
We have September 21st, as previously stated. What I would also want to note and be stated very clearly, or have the chair request from the applicant to be stated clearly, is any and all revisions that are to be included on this plan that's being requested, just so everything's incorporated and there's nothing new to be proposed on the plan. If the commission wants things tightened up anywhere, that's discussed this evening as well, so that moving forward, if the commission wishes to continue it and the applicant's agreeable to it, that at the next meeting, it's reviewing what's being proposed as discussed at this meeting on the plans. And then hopefully the commission may be able to make a determination at that time.
Right. I mean, I would be fine with that. It can be difficult on the applicants. I would be fine with that because I would tell you, I don't have conditions. I mean, I don't have any questions regarding the rest of the plan. It seemed to work for me. It didn't seem like commission members had any other additional burning questions. So that it could be quickly done, hopefully at our next meeting. But I'm not seeing another better way right now, unfortunately. And usually I am concerned about, I understand time constraints. I just don't see a way that we can do it without waiting to get those plans.
Well, certainly, this is a request for determination of applicability, and we're seeking a negative determination. So, in light of that, I mean, it's important that the commission is comfortable with this, or we're wasting our time with this application, right? Because if you issue a positive determination, then we've got to file a notice of intent. So, I think we can make those revisions and come back.
Okay. And in that case, do I have your permission to continue?
Yes.
Okay. Rebecca, what's our earliest time in the 21st, or the first opening?
7:45.
All right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 12 Deer Path until our next public meeting, September 21st, 2021 at 7:45 p.m. Do I hear a second for that?
A second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an I myself.
Mr. Chair, can you just review very quickly what you want on the revised plan, just so it's very clear for the applicant?
Sure. We'd like to see the pad for the pool equipment. I think it's 8 foot by 3 foot pad moved as far out of the riverfront zone as possible. More towards the front, I guess, more towards the, I want to say, is that the northern?
Yes.
Yeah.
Northwesterly, I guess, part of the lot, and to move it out from behind the pool there, up against the limit of work. Is that clear enough? Is there some language, Rebecca, that I'm missing in saying that you had heard us discuss or would like to see added?
No, I just wanted to make sure that anything related to the fencing or any other aspect of the project that was briefly mentioned this evening wasn't to be incorporated into the next set of plans. That's all.
Any members of the commission see anything missing?
Is there a reason that proposed grading isn't shown? Or is,
Proposed grading is shown. It's very limited. It's just
Okay.
really, there's just one contour that wraps around the back corner of the pool patio. It's shown. I think it's the 197. If you zoom in to the corner, you'll see it.
It is 197.
Yeah, it's really, the rear, you can't see where I'm pointing because I'm not sharing my screen.
Oh,
The right
I do see
rear
it.
corner, yeah, there's a 197 contour that wraps around there. And really, it's a pretty minor grade adjustment. I mean, I think it's, 6 to 12 inches tops in that corner.
so how does that work if you have a level, pool deck? Is the pool deck, the edge of the pool deck acting as the retaining wall as the slope goes down?
No, the pool pad will be level, and then it'll taper to existing grade from there. I mean, the pool patio elevation is pretty much at mean finished grade, existing finished grade. It's just the existing finished grade is not level throughout the entire pool area. So, it might be about 6 inches of cut on the north side of the pool, and then 6 to 12 inches of fill on the south end. But then it immediately just returns to finished grade. There isn't a tremendous amount of grading here. Just kind of leveling off the not quite level area that's proposed.
Does that make sense, Emily? Are you?
It kind of makes sense just because we have a 2-foot delta from the right side of the pool to the left side of the pool, and you've got a level pool deck. So that does not make sense to me unless the pool deck has some sort of is functioning as a retaining wall. So like your pool deck is at this elevation and this corner is at that same elevation, but over here we're 2 feet higher.
Drops.
That's what doesn't make sense to me. But I was just trying to understand. I didn't notice that proposed elevation change at the right corner. But what I am just trying to understand is how the right side, so the pool deck is, what's the elevation of the pool deck?
198.
198. Okay. So where your elevation is 197, what happens at the end of the pool deck there? Because your pool deck's at 198 and your grade is a foot lower. So is there some sort of a retaining wall?
No, it's just raised with fill. I mean, it'll be borrowed from.
So it's going to kind of slope up to meet that. So there will be like a berm, a 1-foot berm.
Well, yeah, it'll be elevated about a foot in that rear corner, and then it immediately slopes to grade following the 5-foot bluestone patio. So
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say at the worst case scenario in that far rear right corner it's about a foot.
Okay.
And then in the front left corner, the existing grade is 199, and so there's a foot of cut there. And then there's spoils removed for excavation of the pool, so there'll be material on site for grading purposes. But it's just sort of borrow from one side to fill the other to create a pad site for that's level. I mean, the area is largely level. I mean, these are 1-foot contours running through here. It's got a slight grade left to right.
Good.
Any other questions currently? All right. Rebecca, did we already continue? Did that vote go through? It did.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then if everybody's ready, we are going to move on to the next segment in our agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So much. Thank you. Have a good night, Jonathan.
Good night.
All right. All right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a notice of intent for 231 Sugar Road, proposed construction of a garage structure attached to the existing single-family home. Rebecca, do we have an update on this?
We do not. The applicants are present. Actually, the only update was that there was a site visit scheduled. It seems that only our chair had shown up. I have driven by earlier today to just view it from the roadway, which you can clearly see looking up the driveway. The resource areas to the left, and then of course the house to the right, the proposed area. I think there was a truck parked there. As far as where the garage would be placed.
Rebecca, I
and-
got there after Brian did too.
Oh,
Oh,
wonderful.
good.
Okay, so Bill was there as well. I'm happy to hear that more than one was present. So I would be interested to hear what you both have to say about this site, but I think the garage location itself, I do not have substantial concerns with, as long as we have appropriate erosion and sediment controls during the construction in the typical conditions of stockpiling outside of resource area. Where I do have concerns is relative to the area, and I think one of the other commission members had shared some insights on that as well, is where you're proposing the turnaround. It's close proximity to the resource area. I think you have, it's maybe within the 50-foot, or maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know, 60 feet of this area, which is a resource area under our bylaw. So typically, I know the commission likes to see limited or no alteration within that specific location, but those are really what I noticed. And again, that was from the roadway, and then just looking at the plans and seeing where there may be able to be some remediation take place. But I will turn that back over to you, Mr. Chair, and our commission member, Bill, who was also in attendance.
Can you, Rebecca, can you show me with your cursor where the 100-foot buffer is?
Let me zoom in here.
It goes right through the corner of the proposed garage, correct?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
So what I was referring to is
Yeah, the driveway.
the driveway.
Gravel drive.
Yeah, the gravel drive that exists, I'm comfortable with. This is what is concerning to me. If you can
What
see
does
my
the
cursor.
existing driveway look like, Rebecca? Does it come and hug the edge of the house?
It
Is
is,
any of that existing that's shown on this plan?
I will let our chair speak to that. From what I could see, again, I was just looking at it from the roadway. It's like lawn or cleared area adjacent to the home, and then most likely in this area as well. But it's pretty vegetated up to the driveway, at least in this vicinity. So I'll let the chair speak to that.
That's basically what I saw on site. And you're right, Emily, that current driveway kind of runs right up to the side of the house. You can almost see that contour line right there, which is probably flat because it's the driveway. It's an existing gravel driveway. And the applicant had marked out the garage, limit of work on site. The garage itself and the kind of the limit of work for that back end there, it's all over existing lawn or driveway. Currently flat and either grassed or gravel, going up to there. And looking at the runoff calculations, what they had proposed for runoff, that all seemed to make sense to me, where they're dropping it in the front, as far as the PVC pipe into the driveway. Everything else looks like it'll percolate fine. I had the same question Rebecca had. Basically, it's that turnaround gets dicey because most of that's all naturalized along that back edge there. And from there, maybe, yeah, right where the 50-foot starts, you can see it really starts to drop down. It's really a well-defined wetland whole resource area. So those were kind of my concerns going into what was basically the turnaround. The rest of it I can kind of C, it kind of makes sense. And again, it kind of goes over existing lawn. Bill, I'd be curious what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I thought the same thing because we walked that turnaround, the owner and myself together, and that was pretty much my only comment. I think that the garage where it stands was all right. The gravel driveway does go up to where the garage is, everything except for that back, corner to the left. And I think that is where it's a little bit wooded at that point, but it is on a hill there. There's a hill between that corner of the garage and the
Yes.
wetland.
Yeah.
Is the garage design, are you entering from the side or from the front? Because it's really confusing based on the driveway layout. Is there a
Well,
reason that we have gravel driveway going all on 2 full sides of the garage?
I believe it's access from the front, but the gravel driver on the side was to get access to the rear yard for vehicles. But I should ask the applicant if they are here tonight, is that what we are looking for, right? The garage opening towards the front of the property?
That's correct.
Okay.
And the gravel drive that wraps up to the side, they drew that in because we're concerned about having access to the existing well, but from my perspective, it could be grass grow back and, as long as we can sort of clear it once a year so that, a truck could get in if the water goes.
Yeah.
That gravel on the side is the architect or the engineer idea, not mine. And then the only other thing that I would mention is the turnaround, as we staked it out, is 8 to 10 feet shorter than what's shown on the plan here. Sort of at the inside corner, there's a nice apple tree that I want to see in the spring. And then there was another cherry tree on the other side. So we had pulled that back some with this compared to what's on this plan.
That's right. So any initial questions from commission members? Any additional, I should say right now.
I agree with the comment about the turnaround and the proximity to the wetlands, especially with the existing topography there. My question would be, I'm guessing that the building between the garage and the house is like a breezeway mudroom. Is there any potential to shorten that up and bring everything kind of closer to the house, which would then also bring any necessary turnaround closer? We would minimize the impacts in the buffer zone. Is that?
So we have pushed it's 16 and a half feet for that connection at this point. And that's already 2 feet shorter than the architect came back with. And the issue is that we've got to fit staircase to get from the first floor of the existing house down to the grade. So we've got a staircase down to the mudroom and then a couple steps in the garage as well to shrink the length of that staircase as much as possible and still be able to fit the door coming out to the front.
Could you turn it so that your staircase is going, instead of going into the garage this way, is going up this way and then into the room above the garage, and then you suck everything in? I don't know how deep the room is.
The room's only 10 feet deep, so.
So then you'd pull everything back another 6 feet?
Well, no. So the depth of that connection is only 10 feet. So you don't get much in the way of stairs by the time you have a room to land at the bottom of it.
Right. I'm saying if you took that space and you rotate it, so now you're going 16 feet this way and 10 feet wide, and you're pulling everything kind of away from the resource area. And now your turnaround, if your turnaround is drawn larger than it actually needs to be, now we're kind of pulling everything back. We've got 6 feet, plus I think you said it was drawn at 10 feet longer. So now we're 16 feet further out of the resource area. I'm just throwing out some options here just to kind of suck us back, because I can see why you need a turnaround as you back out of the driveway, so that you're not backing down the entire driveway. I understand that, but how can we minimize that amount of disturbance?
So I challenged the architect on twisting the stairs essentially 90 degrees, which is what you're suggesting, and while I don't necessarily understand all of the architectural decisions that have to go into a construction like this. They basically came back and they're like, the way our house sits and the way we have to put the garage, the staircase gets more complicated and becomes almost unnecessarily complicated if we have to turn it that way. Because originally that's what I envisioned. And I was like, well, let's do it that way. And they're like, that it's not going to work as well as you want if you turn the staircase that way. So we pushed them to make everything shorter, to pull us out of, you know, the wetlands like you guys are suggesting, so that we could bring to you, you know, the best sort of solution that we could see.
So I got a question. When you're talking about the fact that the turnaround is smaller than what's shown on the map right now, on the drawing right now, where is it shorter? And can you shorten down that back end of the turnaround any?
Can I screen share? I have a plan that we sort of drew some colored lines on that I can share for you guys.
That would be excellent, Rebecca, if that's so fine.
It looks like Rebecca gave me permission, so hopefully
That's a nod.
hopefully this works. I usually work in Teams, not in Zoom, so I think you guys should be able to see it now. Is that accurate?
We can only see a partial, you know.
Yeah, we
a
could see
few
it
people on the
before.
drawing.
Hold on. Let me see if I can. I apologize, guys. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Good. Sorry about that. There, can you see my cursor in here?
Yes.
Okay.
So, let's see, so this line here is what we staked out, and you can see, so here's the silt fence coming off the hill, and that's that jog there where the apple tree is, to avoid that. I mean, if we're gonna go back, if we were to go back to the architect and say, we need to do something, how much?
So what you're saying already is what is drawn there has brought the turnaround back, what, 5 feet or? If that's
So when I scale it, I get
about 8 feet.
35 feet at one here, and originally it was 45. And I had 38, and I'm down to 30 here, coming off of that 100-foot line.
So about 10.
Yeah.
Back
And
about 10
at
feet.
the back here, sort of outside the original silt fence line, it starts to drop off pretty quick to the pond. And so we're still, like, this whole area, it's a little lower than the driveway, but it's relatively flat.
Yeah, I remember that. It dropped a little bit, maybe a foot, something like that, but it was flat after that.
Yeah. So one thing that Brian and I had talked about was maybe making sure that this turnaround and driveway area is pitched so that it's running into this area versus running off the end. I don't know if that would be helpful.
Yeah, and well, I can see with it being gravel too, that for the most part, it should all just be going down and through. And I do appreciate that you would pull that in. I like seeing it on this map right here. Yeah, like I said, as Emily said, I can see the need for a turnaround. I can appreciate you bringing it in some, and I think I can understand why your breezeway needs to be the way it is right now. And I know you get windows on the side of the house. Well, I don't think I have additional questions. I think I could be comfortable conditioning it as such, and talking about the placement of the trees and where it is relative to those trees that you had mentioned. But I'm just curious if other commission members have any additional questions, anything they would like discussed, or anything they need to ask or would like to ask.
So when you say you're all set with it, you're all set if that turnaround's brought back in 10 feet like it's shown.
Yeah, just because I think you're gonna, if we were to the project. I think you're gonna need a turnaround. I think the fact that they were willing and able to bring it in a little bit, basically to save a couple of the trees that are there. And we can kind of use those trees as a boundary. I had some thoughts on that. And the area is going to be maintained as gravel. It's a pervious solution. It's not getting paved. And also, Bill, you were out there. There really is behind to the left of the section on the side of the garage. There really is a hill right there. It's just like this perfect little mound, which kind of directs, all the water back away from the wetland, especially any water, anything coming down by the garage or going along the side of the garage, is all pitched towards the backyard or towards the house. The only really flat area that's going in towards the wetlands is basically where the turnaround is, I guess is what I was saying. Bill, does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
thought you were saying. I just want to
Okay.
make sure.
Brian,
Go
does
ahead,
it,
Emily.
does it help at all? Just brainstorming again. If that turnaround is brought a little closer towards the garage, does that help at all? Or is that, I don't know if you can still get the radius into the garage to pull in, coming off of the driveway, not off of the turnaround. But I'm just curious if that turnaround could be sucked up closer to the garage a bit, because it looks like it's about 30 something feet to start from the face of the garage. I don't know if that would help at all, and that would get it a little closer to that, a little higher above the tight slope, but just an idea, just a thought.
No, I can say it. I'll let the dads answer that in a second. But from my recollection, again, it's that strange little hill that's to the left of everything you're seeing on your screen, and it was kind of putting the turnaround on the other side of the hill rather than cutting out this little hill or trying to chunk into it. It was kind of getting to the far side of the hill and then having the turnaround spot be there. Am I describing that accurately? I'd asked the Dowds.
Yes, that's accurate. And I mean, I don't have any issue with moving the turnaround towards the garage. I mean, I guess I'd defer to probably the architect, or at least look for some advice sort of on how much, you need at least a vehicle length,
Right.
Fully out of the garage, I would assume, before you make that turn. So if we could shave a little bit, that's fine. But you're right, Brian, it does. I mean, then you start cutting into the hillside, and I don't know if that's a concern for you guys or.
It would be to a certain extent, because Emily being out there, it really looked like it was designed to basically avoid that. There's that little hill right there, basically to go around the hill rather than trying to cut out part of the hill, if that makes sense.
I think that's good then, Brian, based
Okay.
on that. If we can avoid more cutting into that,
Yeah.
I think it's a better option, especially since it's a pervious gravel driveway. So.
Right.
good.
Rebecca, any members of the public here tonight to comment on this?
I do not see anyone.
All right. What I was thinking, and Bill, I'd be curious your thoughts on this one too, and to the dads too, to see if you'd be amenable to something along these lines. Is when discussing that turnaround, to use the two trees that were on property that you had discussed, the two you were trying to, I believe it's an apple and a cherry that were basically at the back of that. To use those two as a limit of work, to allow appropriate limbing on those trees if you need to limb some of the lower branches to actually have a turnout where you're not running into it. But then in front of those trees, between those trees and the house, to have some sort of, not so much barrier, but marker for the end of the turnaround. And by marker, usually what we'll do is either a piece of split rail fence, or people will put boulders on the ground, kind of an 18-inch diameter boulder. And it's simply to kind of mark, this is the end of the turnaround. So you don't have that creep over the years, or that sloughing off, or, it gets plowed out over the winter and it pushes back a little bit. And, those trees die and eventually, things are going back there. So basically it would be keeping it in front of the trees and also putting in some sort of marker at the back end of it. Again, whether that's small 18-inch boulders on the ground, a piece of split rail fence, something to kind of memorialize where the back of the turnaround is. And then leaving it gravel as you proposed. I think those are the type of conditions I would be looking to do. Is that something you would be amenable to?
Yeah.
It would work. Okay. Bill, would that kind of work with what you saw on site there? Would you think something like that would be amenable?
Yes, I'd be fine with that.
All right.
And that probably is shrinking it even a little bit more.
I was gonna say, yeah, I
which
was gonna say you
fine.
right up against it.
Yeah,
Usually we'll
no,
give
which is
people the
fine.
options. If you do the boulders, like an 18-inch diameter boulder, you can almost put them right on the bottom of the trees, right in between,
Yep.
but just something to mark the back end of it.
Yeah, so sort of a line between those two trees of boulders or fence or whatever.
Yeah, and again, split rail, so it can basically go right up to the trees, and then you just have a fence, 3 inches in front of the trees, basically a piece of split rail fence or something along those lines. So it's basically backing up all the way to the trees.
Yep, that makes sense. I do have one other question.
Please.
So you were mentioning stockpiling material out of the resource area. And I don't know what the excavator would want to do. But where I had the silt fence marked in the backyard, which is all out of the 100-foot buffer zone, is there an issue with pushing that back to make room? If we were going to store stuff here, I don't know.
I see what you're saying. I mean, I would be fine with knowing what the site looks like, that back siltation barrier. I'd be fine if you need to push that back, a little bit. So
if we said, I don't know, 20, I think it was 12 feet as drawn here. If we said 25 feet, I mean, that's still in the middle of the existing yard. And
I was gonna say, you're still up in yard at that
Yeah.
point, right? I mean, I would be fine with that. And again, Bill, I don't know, you were out there, if you had any strong thoughts on that.
No, that's fine. That was all yard.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair, I think if you even just added the condition and phrase it so that it states, the erosion control shall be installed on site. However, you typically phrase it, and then the stockpiling shall occur outside of the 100-foot buffer zone and adjacent upland resource area, because as you can see on the plans, and then that gives some flexibility to the property owner. Because as you can see, you have the 100-foot buffer zone here and over on this side as well. So the area you're referring to is, as long as it's outside of that area, it's fairly level. So I think that would be reasonable, and then reduce any sort of verbiage that you need.
okay. Any other comments, questions from members of the commission or members of the public for that matter, or members of Rebecca?
I have none, and I don't see anyone's hand raised or anything in the chat.
Okay. That said, then I'd like to propose a motion that we like to make a motion that we close the public hearing for 231 Sugar Road. Do I hear a second for closing?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an aye as well. All right. Like to make a motion that we issue, this was an NOI, that we issue an order of conditions for 231 Sugar Road, following the plan drafted, submitted at this evening's meeting with the following additions. That erosion controls be in place and approved before the beginning, before work begins. The stockpiling of any materials for this job kept outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. The proposed turnaround should go no further than the 2 trees that currently exist at the back of it. I believe they are apple and cherry. limbing of those trees to make the parking lot accessible would be allowed, but not removal of said trees. And in front of those trees at the back end of the turnaround should be a permanent marker memorializing or permanent marker or barrier to kind of define the end, the back end of the turnaround zone. This could be either split rail fence, solid fence, or boulders no less than 18-inch in diameter.
Do you want that last condition to be a condition in perpetuity?
Oh, is that be maintained in perpetuity? Yes. That all said, was there anything else I missed, Rebecca, from what we had discussed? All right, in that case, do I hear a second for the motion as it has been proposed?
I second.
All right, all those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
And Rebecca, I am an aye as well.
Wonderful, thank you. For the applicant, so I will draft up that, or rather finalize that document, and then it will be given to the commission for signatures. Once I have the signatures, you will receive a hard copy in the mail, but you will also receive an electronic copy. So that technically the commission has 21 days to issue permits, but I've yet to see the commission take all 21 days, but I just like to state that as a disclaimer. But I will be in contact once they've signed.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
All right, Rebecca, are you ready for me to move on? Beautiful. All right. In that case, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for determination of applicability for the town common of Bolton, Massachusetts, a proposed operations and maintenance and vegetation management plan.
Is Century Mill Road first on the agenda?
Oh, I am so sorry. With apologies. Hold on for that other one. So at this point in time, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a notice of intent filed for Century Mill Road, map 3.D, parcel 75, discussion regarding proposed construction of 3 single-family homes and the widening and paving of existing gravel driveway. Rebecca, do we have an update on this?
We do. The applicant's representative has requested a continuation. Prior to then, I actually reached out to our engineer just to confirm a couple things. And they are in fact working on some responses and some hopefully revised plans as well related to our engineers' items that were brought up before. They were having an issue playing a little bit of phone tag in the beginning there, but we should have them before our next meeting, at which time our engineer may either be present or have responded with a report or a review of their response for the commission to understand and be discussed at the next meeting. So at this time, there is a request for continuation from the applicant.
And correct me if I'm wrong, next available spot on the 21st is 8 o'clock?
Yes.
All right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Century Mill Road, map 3.D, parcel 75, until our next public hearing, Tuesday, September 21st at 8 o'clock p.m. Do I hear a second for that?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an aye myself.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Now moving on to Town Common. I have officially already opened it, correct?
You have.
All right. Do we have someone here this evening to give us a summary of what's being proposed?
We do,
Okay.
very briefly, and then I will let them explain in maybe a little bit more detail. The Department of Parks and Rec has submitted a request for determination of applicability for the vegetation and management plan to be considered by the Conservation Commission. Because as we know, the majority of the property is in fact jurisdictional. What I have displayed before you this evening is the area in yellow is the upland area on site, also known as area outside of our jurisdiction, unless something that happens there directly impacts the resource area. The dark green here on the plans that I've annotated are the 100-foot buffer. So you do have a small area here that is outside of that. However, it is inside of the 200-foot riverfront area. And the reason why these are semicircles is because it does go underground. As you're aware, I'm sure if you visited Town Common, where the driveway into Town Common is here, then you have the gazebo or pergola, I'm not sure the right term for that, so I apologize, here. And then the brook daylights itself again. So you still have the 200-foot riverfront area as far as how the regulations are applied, and that is why they are filing an RDA for this work. I will turn it over to the Parks and Rec representative that is present.
Hi there.
Oh, it's Lisa. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I forgot it says Parks and Rec. Yeah, so we're just updating the records, and we haven't done anything on the property except the town has been mowing it. I think at some point we do have to, I was looking into getting a landscaper or something, looking at the grounds to see, to improve it at all. But we haven't done anything yet.
I did send what you had submitted, Lisa, to the commission, so I will pull that up right now. Can everyone see that, or did my screen share not work properly? It says Bolton Town Common O&M plan.
I can see it, Rebecca.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. This is what was submitted to be considered. Much of this document talks about the history of the property and the substantial cleanup that was done. It was certainly a massive and long effort, but now we have beautiful Town Common. So the proposed overall maintenance, and then more specifically, items are listed here. Where are we? So what was submitted, I believe, Lisa, this was submitted from the Parks and Rec chair.
Yep.
So it does talk about looking at soil health. So similar to incorporating some concerns that the commission had for the Forbush Mill field, maintenance that was already issued a permit earlier this year, talks about the health of the soils, seed and fertilizer. I know that is a concern of the commission as well. This does encourage fertilizer, but it will be off the shelf or a fertilizer used by a contractor, Emerald Acres, because I believe that's the individual who's done the work in the past, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he has done it, and then he hasn't done it recently, but he has done it in the past, yes.
And then also noted here, organic methods should be used when applicable. Soil tests obviously should be performed. Just trying to summarize here. Weed control, manually pulled by hand. Pulled by hand, bare areas loamed and seeded. Herbicide should be spot applied, excuse me, when possible. Brush control, each season necessary to trim brush and tree lines. I think trimming is reasonable, that are encroaching on walking areas or walking pathways. Cuttings will not be placed in the wetland resource areas, but rather off-site or outside, so within that upland area that was highlighted. Grass cutting seems to be following the same practice. As Lisa just stated, mowing is conducted by the DPW at this time. And Bolton DPW, if there are any changes or additional, will need to be approved by that department. And irrigation, I think this is important to highlight. Currently, there's no formal irrigation system on the property. There is a surface well with a low flow rate. They are looking into, or will be looking into, or hope to look into, a more permanent irrigation solution. And that may require the drilling of a new well so that it can handle a greater draw of water. And just also highlighting their view on that irrigation can improve the overall health of the green areas if installed. And then just the times of day, again, which was highlighted in the past on Parks and Rec properties regarding late evening or after sundown, or early morning before sunrise. And then they'll have to request funding. So just noting that it's not going to be occurring in the near future, within the next month or two, but something that needs to be addressed that is coming up. I would say, as far as the irrigation, that I would want to note is that would require a notice of intent because you're installing new infrastructure. But as far as the vegetation maintenance plan, I think that's reasonable, and that's why filing it under an RDA is feasible for that portion of the project. But I will hand it back to you, Mr. Chair, and the commission if you have any questions for Lisa.
I'll put it up to the commission. I'm trying to think if I have any initial questions, and I'm not coming up with any at the moment. Any other commission members have initial questions or thoughts? Rebecca, any members of the public care to comment on this tonight?
I'm not seeing anyone. Just a point of order for the meeting. I'm going to unmute someone and just ask who they are because it's a phone number.
Sure.
Could the phone number 1-978-397-9001 identify themselves? Okay.
Scott Erickson.
Scott Erickson. Perfect. Thank you very much.
And I'm assuming, Scott, you're not here tonight to comment on this?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Rebecca, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I appreciate your watch out with irrigation, where that would stand and how that would come before us if something was proposed. But as far as the vegetation management plan as it stands here, do you have questions, thoughts, additions, some things we might not be thinking of?
I don't at this time. I understand they're looking into the organic and nature-based solutions methods as far as increasing the soil health, or trying to, and then therefore hopefully that will be reflected in the amount of fertilizer that's used, whether it be organic or not, in addition to the amount of water necessary to continue the health of the common as well. But I think it's reasonable.
Okay. All right. That said, unless anyone has any additional comments. I'm gonna make a motion that we close the public hearing for a request for determination of applicability for the Bolton Town Common on Main Street. Do I hear a second for closing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an I as well. Rebecca, seeing how this is an RDA, what, trying to think how an operation management plan fits in with a -5 determination, a -3 determination.
I would say the commission would be fair in issuing a -3 and just referencing this document as the conditions.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we have a -3 determination for the request for determination of applicability for the town common on Main Street with the following conditions. That the operation and management plan follow the rules as outlined in the operations and management plan draft document that was submitted this evening. Does that make sense as it was, as I said it, Rebecca? Right, okay.
Yes.
All right, in that case, do I hear a second for that?
Second.
Sorry.
All right, all those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
all right, and Rebecca, I am an I as well.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yep. So thank you, Lisa. When that document is drafted, I will bring it down to you.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Rebecca, you ready to continue? Or on to the
Yes.
next, okay. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now open a public hearing to hear a request for a certificate of compliance for 147 Long Hill Road, a common driveway. Rebecca, do we have an update on this? Or is the applicant here requesting?
So it sounds like the applicant's representative is in fact present this evening. But the item on the agenda for this evening is for the commission to discuss and review the Horsley-Witten report regarding restoration areas and peer review of Lot 5 slope. I have yet to get back out on site. A site visit is required. It can be done by the commission's wetland scientist and/or myself or the commission. I personally would like to get back out there to just see what's been done on site. I do have some time this week to do so, but the purpose of this meeting is to make sure that the commission understands what the Horsley and Witten report contains and allow for the applicant, if they wish, to provide comment on some of the questions that Horsley and Witten had asked of them. So in summary, the document included a description of what's on site now. Some of the questions, again, I'm paraphrasing and summarizing, included just clarifying or inquiring to the applicant to provide some evidence of monitoring reports during I'm going to call it the pandemic shutdown, but essentially between 2019 through 2020, because we didn't receive any additional reports during that time to show monitoring or data associated with that monitoring. And then I believe there were some questions about the excavation work that was completed on site as well. Then regarding, that's related to the restoration areas. And then there were some inquiries about the health of the plantings that were done. And again, that would be incorporated in those monitoring reports, but we understand that the world was an emergency at that time. Also, peer review of Lot 5 slope, the riprap slope and the lawn above that slope has since been stabilized, which is what the commission wanted to see. And there is an area within the cart path that the Horsley and Witten incorporated a photo of, which included some sediment. However, the area to the down gradient side and up gradient side seemed to be stabilized. So that area in between, they believe, is from individuals using it as just a footpath or using it for vehicles. They're not sure, but I will pull that up. I'm not sure if the chair wants to open it to the applicant's representative at this time or to the commission.
I think it would be good to open up to the applicants. I mean, I'm guessing commissioners have had a chance to look through the Horsley and Witten report, and they outlined some of those questions as Rebecca had stated. So if at all possible, if the applicant wants to try to answer some of those or just kind of give an update on where they stand, that would be excellent.
I have requested, oh, there they go.
Hello. Hi. Sorry, I'm participating by phone. This is Scott Erickson on behalf of Walter Erickson, Bill Best Construction. Mr. Chair, thank you. We were not here to comment tonight. We only just received the Horsley Witten report today ourselves. And quite frankly, we didn't know that this was on the agenda for this evening. We didn't receive notice of this meeting, but we learned about it through an internet search this afternoon, so I wanted to listen in. We are going to provide the report to our wetlands consultant, Norse Environmental, and I expect it will be in touch with the commission shortly.
Okay. That said, I'm fine continuing this until the next time to give them a chance to respond to it, give you a chance to respond to it. And if commission members want a little more time to look through it, I'm fine with that. Rebecca, would you see an issue with that? Do you have any questions at the moment?
No, I see no issue at all. And this was placed on the agenda when the agenda was posted as both a placeholder and in the hopes that we were receiving the report. So I also received the report earlier today and had sent it to the applicant so that they had it prior to the meeting. But again, this was more, the reason why it was written that way on the agenda was more for just to read out for the record and for the commission what the report was entailing, well knowing that the commission probably needs more time to review it, and I'm sure the applicant as well, which is, I think, extremely reasonable.
Okay, all right. That said, Scott, if you're fine, we can continue this until the 21st, which would be 2 weeks from now. Hopefully that gives everybody a chance to take a look and maybe answer some of those questions and all that. Would you be fine with that?
Yes, that sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. And Rebecca, 8:15, I think, is the next opening. Okay.
Yes, so this is a request for certificate of compliance, and unless I'm mistaken, you don't have to make it a time and date certain. I mean, excuse me, a time certain.
Yep.
And therefore, if the commission wanted not to assign a time to it, it may be taken out of order, but you also have the ability, just being reasonable with the applicant, to assign a time to it so that they know when to attend.
I see what you're saying. Well, that's a good question. I probably, just for Scott's clarification, I probably won't assign a time so that we can possibly take it out of order. Well, actually, I probably should have, because this is another one. I don't know if members of the public would want to comment on it. It didn't sound like there were any here tonight, Rebecca. But why don't I assign a time just in case, because I'd hate for people to have to log on and wait for an hour. All right. So in that case, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for the request for certificate of compliance for 147 Long Hill Road until our next meeting, Tuesday, September 21st at 8:15 p.m. Do I hear a second for that?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of continuing, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an I myself.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Right. Rebecca, looking at it, it looks like we've gone through our full agenda. Is there anything I'm missing or any other topics you would like to bring up this evening?
Sorry, I was just pulling my screen back up, but
No, you're fine.
no, I believe that is it.
Okay. Any members of the commission have any new business or any topics they wish to discuss this evening, or just tell us how they're feeling? All right, hearing none. I'd like to make a motion that we officially adjourn the Tuesday, September 7th, 2021 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. Do I hear a second for closing?
Second.
All right, all those in favor of adjourning, I should say, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and Rebecca. I am an I as well. Thank you all.
Wonderful.
We'll
Thank
see you
you.
later. Have a wonderful evening. Jillian, congratulations on a first meeting. Very well done. Like a pro already.